8BitDo has put out a lot of controllers lately, and the latest one that they put out is the 8BitDo Pro 3 Bluetooth Gamepad. This one is very similar to one of my favorite Nintendo Switch controllers, which was the 8BitDo, Pro, SN30 Pro Plus, I think is what it was called. And it was an incredibly comfortable controller that was very much like a Super Nintendo controller, but with handles. Now, I asked 8BitDo to send me this one because it has some features that I really, really like. So let's open it up and I'll show off those features. And then once we have it open, once we've got it up and running, I'm going to show you how it works in Steam Input, if it works in Steam Input. We've all got lots of wires laying around, and we want to plug a lot of stuff into our Steam Deck, but it only has one port. Luckily, Ugreen has you covered with the Ugreen Steam Deck Dock 9-in-1 USB-C docking station. It supports 4K 60 or 1080p 120 over HDMI, which is perfect for getting those smaller indie titles up on the big screen. It has gigabit Ethernet, so you can download your games even faster than before. It has USB 2.0 ports, which are perfect for keyboard and mouse if you want to get some work done on your Steam Deck. If you need faster ports, it also has USB 3.2 ports. One of them is a Type A port and the other one is a Type C port. But the standout feature is that it also has an SD card slot. So if you're running low on space for your handheld PC, you can expand the storage without having to swap cards. This is particularly useful if you want to keep games installed somewhere, but then you can move them back and forth between the cards without having to re-download them. It does all of this while keeping your Steam Deck topped off thanks to its 100 watts of power delivery. And thanks to its adjustable stand, it's compatible with more than just the Steam Deck. It also works with the ROG Ally, the ROG Ally X, the Legion Go, and the MSI Claw. You can even use it to dock your iPad. Ugreen has been a long-time sponsor of this channel. It's because every time they sponsor my videos, you always make it worth it to them. So a huge thanks to you for supporting our sponsors, and thanks to Ugreen for sponsoring this video. Now, back to what I was saying. All right, so we've opened up the box and we've obviously got one of the best things that 8BitDo has done is they have now made this one with a charging cradle. So essentially what happens is every single time that you are done using this controller, you just set it in the charging cradle and it charges. And then when you're ready to play, you pick it up, it automatically pairs to your system. I know all this because I've been using their Ultimate series controllers that also has a dock like this one. And they're just so freaking fantastic that even though they're not my favorite controllers to use for a few reasons, they're the one that I use anyway because of the charging cradle. I never have to plug it in. I never have to swap batteries. It's just fantastic. So let's actually take a look at the charging cradle. If you take a look at this, there's USB-C on the back. You've got your 3 charging pins right here, and it's got the little cutouts for your thumbsticks, so it always sits in there perfect. You don't have to like hunt around to get it to seat. You just drop it in and it seats itself. On the back, or I guess on the bottom, we have this little LED light that always shows you when it's charging, and you have this little door that hides a dongle. It turns out it's a USB-C dongle. That's great. But you never actually have to take this out of here unless you're going to hook it up to some other system or some other device, because the wire that plugs into the back of this, which comes in here, this wire will always essentially be plugging in this dongle, so you'll always have a connection, which is really, really great. I'm going to put this wire off to the side. It's I think it's about 3 feet, it looks looks to be about 3 feet. On the bottom side of the door, we have other buttons that you can swap out and a little tool to allow you to swap out the buttons. We'll take a look at that later on in the video. I don't want to mess with it yet. Set the dock off to the side. All right, let's take a look at the controller. First off, it says swappable magnetic buttons. That's what it says right there. We'll talk about that in a second. I can't get my finger underneath it. There we go. And we can peel that off. And it feels just like an SN30 Pro Plus, which I really, really like. The sticks, they feel a little loose. Not too loose, not enough that I wouldn't like it, but I would say that the looseness of the sticks, probably, I'm going to give it like a 7.5 out of 10 for how loose the sticks are. Maybe when I'm actually playing it and it's plugged in, it'll feel better, but they feel a little loose. Not a real big fan of that. The D-pad feels very good. Very Super Nintendo style D-pad. Huge fan of that. And we'll do a test to see how it handles accidental inputs and you know, shoryukens and hadoukens later on in the video. We also have our start and select buttons. We have our 8BitDo button and then a macro button. This button right here allows you to switch between different layouts. So basically you can use the 8BitDo software, program the buttons to be how you want them, you know, turbo and stuff like that, and then save that to one of these 3 templates. And then basically you can swap between them by pushing that button in the middle. All right, we've got our face buttons. They're in a diamond formation, but it's kind of a stretched out diamond or a squashed diamond, depending on how you look at it, but feel really nice and tactile. I like how they feel. They're a little bit loud. Let me put it up to the microphone. Here's the D-pad. Here's the bumpers. It's not loud enough that it would bother me, but it is louder than, I think, the Ultimate Pro 2 that I've been using. So that's just something to keep in mind, and that might be because of the magnets that are in here. Up on the top, like I said before, we have our bumpers, which feel pretty good. You also have some extra L4 and R4 bumpers that are right here. I would say I do have to reach just a little bit to hit them. What would I do with these? Well, hopefully, Steam Input recognizes this controller. We'll find out later on in the video because I haven't hooked it up yet. And if it does, I would use these for radial menus, which would be really fantastic. Basically, you could hold down one of these and then use the opposite stick or this stick in order to access buttons that you wouldn't otherwise be able to access when you're playing a game. All right, then we have our triggers. Triggers feel pretty good. They're not super resistive. I would put them as about the same level of resistance as the sticks. I would have liked them to be just a little more resistive. And then on the back of the controller, we have our back paddles, which I'm a huge fan of back paddles. I almost always, if there's an option, bind the right back paddle to be like my jump button. So when I'm playing a game, I can leave my thumb on the sticks and still activate jump with my middle finger on my right hand. And I will usually, if the game is simple enough, I'll usually put an attack on the left paddle, so I never have to take my thumbs off the sticks, which is really, really nice. But we've got those. We have this switch on the bottom, lets you switch between, you know, the DirectX style or Nintendo Switch style inputs. We'll talk about that later on. My advice to you is if you want to get one of these controllers for the Nintendo Switch 2, these buttons, you have to program them outside of the Switch 2, so you'll have to hook it up to a PC, and then you would be able to program it on the PC, and then you hook it up to the Switch 2, and these buttons would work the way that you had set it up. But let's say you're playing a new game, and suddenly you're like, well, I don't want to put the jump button here. I want to put something else there, maybe the dash button or something. You wouldn't be able to do that because the Nintendo Switch Pro controller is currently the only one that is able to be programmed when you are using the Nintendo Switch 2 software. So honestly, if you're going to get an extra controller for Nintendo Switch 2, my advice is bite the bullet and buy the more expensive Switch 2 Pro controller. I hate to say that because 8BitDo makes some really, really good stuff, but Nintendo locked it down, as Nintendo is usually likely to do. Speaking of the triggers on the back, we also have these trigger locks, which are really, really cool. So basically, you have, I don't know if this is showing up on camera or not, but you have like a long dash here on the right, and then a little dot. So the long dash represents pulling the trigger and giving you a lot of different gradation. If I push it over here, now it's basically a digital input, and I'll do that on both sides. Oh, that feels really good. I have other controllers that have trigger stops. This one feels the best by far. So I'm going to let you take a listen to this. All right, hopefully that comes through on the microphone. If not, sorry. But it feels really, really good. I almost forgot. It also comes with these really strange stick caps that are supposed to look like joysticks. So let's see what these thumbstick caps are like. All right, and how they go on there. Whoop. So this gives you a lot more height. Like, look at the height difference. Oh, that's not on all the way. There we go. So this gives you a lot more height, which would give you finer control, but I don't like the feel of the arcade style stick on top using my thumb. Like, it just does not feel right to me. It's too hard of a plastic, and I'm not a fan of that. So these I probably won't use. It's a fun gimmick, but not something that I think most people would use in everyday use. What I would really like to see 8BitDo do is release replacement sticks for this that have longer sticks, so that you can get that height without having to use the hard plastic ball on top of your joystick, like the arcade style ball. All right, let's go ahead and swap out the buttons. One of the reasons that I'm really excited about the ability for us to swap out these buttons is because maybe this is just a Bill thing. I don't know. But whenever I play a game and my controller has the Nintendo style layout like this controller does, whenever I play a game and it's expecting the ABXY to be set up like an Xbox style controller, my brain knows where the buttons are on this, but my brain has to still think about it. Now, if instead I replace these, I mean, easily I could swap this to ABXY to have it be like a PC, which I'll do right now. So there's my A button. Oh, hold on. There we go. I took my A button off, and I'm going to swap my B button, and I will switch their locations. And if you look on here, I'm going to hold it way up high. You can see that there's this little peg on there so that you can always line it up with this little spot right there. It'll always line up exactly the way you want if you put it in the right spot. So I can swap these out, and then every time I play a game, it's going to have the buttons in the right spot, and I don't really have to do any translation in my head, which is great. However, okay, that still feels great. These buttons right here, they are more like the Super Nintendo buttons that didn't have a label on them because the labels were written off to the side instead of written on the buttons. And these don't have a label. So that means I don't have to think, where does this controller have the A button? My muscle memory should be able to kick in at that point. So I'm going to swap these out, and I am going to admit that I do not remember what colors the Super Nintendo had. Let me see if I can take this one off without without the tool. You can take it off without the tool, but it's a pain in the ass. So I don't think I'm too worried about these coming off inadvertently. Let's put on these ones. I think I'm going to put yellow up at the top. Green, I'm going to put to the right. Red, I'm going to put to the left. And blue, I'm going to put on the bottom. And I will put a Super Nintendo controller on screen right now so that you can see if I got it right, which I'm guessing I did not. Because, oh, that doesn't feel right. That's not on there the right way. You have to make sure it's lined up with that little peg. All right. There we go. And then these, I can just put onto this little magnetic case. This is such a good design. And they'll be there in case I want to swap them out some other time. So we'll put that back over here. All right. Let's hook this up to my PC and see how it handles Steam input. All right, so I've got this hooked up to my Steam Deck. Let's see if Steam input works with it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to press the 8BitDo button because the 8BitDo button is going to act like my Steam button, which is really nice. I'm going to come down here to settings, and this is set up automatically as a Nintendo controller. It's automatically detected as a Nintendo controller. So I'm going to push the rightmost button or the east button. And in order to go into there, I'm going to head down here to controller. And as you can see, it is actually detected as 8BitDo 3, Pro 3, which is awesome. All of the other 8BitDo controllers that I have, for some reason, are all detected as Xbox controllers. This one is detected as an actually what it is, which means all of these extra buttons and gyro and analog triggers should actually work. But there's one problem, because if I go over here into Bluetooth, you can see that it is detected as 8BitDo 3. But where was I looking in here? Oh, under controller, it says use Nintendo button layout. I don't want the Nintendo button layout, so I'm going to push the green button here to switch that over. And now I should be able to hit that button again and exit out. And now it's going to behave the way that I expect it would, kind of like the Steam Deck automatically does with A on the bottom, B on the right. So if I want to, right now it's set A is back and B is select. I don't like the way that that looks either. That's kind of confusing to me. So I'm going to come down here to settings. Whoops. I'm going to come down here to settings. And then I'm going to go back down to my controller and I'm going to say use universal face button glyphs. So now you can see on the bottom right hand side, it says the bottom button is select and the right button is back, which is exactly what I want it to be. So now if I want to open up Iron Meat, I can press the blue button or the bottom button and it's going to bring that up. I'm going to hit the green button to go back. Let's start by testing how this D-pad fares on Iron Meat. All right, so here I am in Iron Meat. It's one of my favorite side-scrolling Contra-likes. If you want to test out if you're going to be getting accidental diagonals, all you have to do is fire up a game like this, hold down on the D-pad, and then rock your finger back and forth. And if you get lots of movement, that means that you're getting accidental diagonals. And as you can see, I'm getting accidental diagonals here quite a bit. This controller fails the Iron Meat test. Let's go ahead and fire up a fighting game and see how it handles that. Okay, I've loaded up the training mode for Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection. This is Marvel vs. Capcom 2 specifically, and what I want to do is first see how well fireballs get pulled off. That's the one where you have to do quarter circle forward and then your punch button. So let's see how it goes. Absolutely zero problem. This is working incredibly well. I have a much harder time pulling off Shoryukens, which is the one where you have to go forward, down, and then down, forward, and then punch. So let's give that a shot. I don't know, 6 in a row, for me, is pretty damn good. I just missed the 7th. Yeah, Okay, I think that this is actually really great. If you're somebody who plays side scrollers, accidental diagonals might hit you, but if you want to play fighting games on a controller like this, it's going to work really, really well, because I had zero problems pulling off those moves, and I am traditionally very bad at that kind of gameplay. All right, moving on to a game that'll actually use the gyro, so we can see if that works. This is Celico, which is a really cool first-person shooter. I'm going to go ahead and press the heart button, and I'm going to go into my controller settings. I'm going to come down here right in the middle to gyro behavior. I'm going to set it to gyro to mouse. I'm going to open up the gear icon, and under button behavior, which is under the gyro activation submenu on the left-hand side, it currently says none selected. I'm going to go ahead and press my button, and I'm going to say hold to enable gyro, and we're going to pick, this is a left trigger soft pull, but I am currently using the trigger stops so that there is no soft pull, and I'll set that to left trigger full pull. And then we'll back out and see how this works. So as you can see, gyro isn't doing anything. And if I hold down the left trigger, you can see that gyro is now working. It's a little too sensitive, but that's okay. We would adjust that on our own. I'm not going to mess with that right now. Let's see what else we can do with this. I am going to see if I can set up radial menu, where I'm going to set my R4 button to be the activator, and then my left stick to bring up the menu. So what I want to do is I'm going to come down here to action sets, and I'm going to click on the gear icon next to default. I'm going to add a layer. That layer is going to be called sub, because you should subscribe to this channel if you find this stuff useful. Enter. There we go. Now I have it. All right, next I'm going to go into my virtual menus. I'm going to add a virtual menu. Let's go ahead and name this virtual menu like, because you should like the video if it's useful to you. And now I'm going to create a radial menu, because it's going to be centered around this left stick. So I'm going to create the radial menu, and let's edit it by clicking on that pencil icon. Under commands on the left-hand side, I'm going to come over here under menu type, and I'm going to come down to add virtual menu entry. I'm going to go ahead and pick anything that I want. It doesn't really matter. I'm only seeing if I can bring this stuff up. So I'm just going to do one. I'm going to do a few more. 2, 3, 4. I'll do one more. 5. So now you can see on the bottom left-hand screen of the screen, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. For each one of those, I want to go in and give them a different symbol. So we've got a knife on that one. We've got a pistol on this one. We have a shotgun on this one. We got a submachine gun on that one. And then we have a long gun or a rifle on that one. Awesome. Now that we've got that set up, what does that look like in game? Well, nothing, because we haven't configured it. So how do we get this to actually show up? So if I come down here to my extended buttons, and I'm looking at the one that's going to be my R4, which is that one right there, and that currently is set to be my B button, but I don't want it to do that. So I'm going to click on the button, and I'm going to, under action sets, I can use my bumpers to switch between these. I'm going to set this to hold action set layer, and I'm going to set it to sub. And I'm going to go ahead and hit confirm. And now I'm going to press R1. And if you look up on the left-hand side, you can see currently I'm on my default action set. And if I press R1, it's going to take me over to sub. So what do I want to do on here? Well, I'm going to come down here to the left joystick. And instead of joystick inherited, which basically means it's going to pull all of the stuff that I want to do with the controller from the default layer, I'm going to hit my L1 button. You can see here's the default layer. Here's the sub layer, and it says joystick inherited. I don't want it to inherit that. I want it to give me my menu. So I'm going to click on this, and you can see all the way up at the top, there is the like menu, which is the one that I made just a few minutes ago. I'm going to go ahead and press that. And now what should happen, I'm going to hit the Steam button. What should happen is if I press the R4 button, it will switch this left stick over to movement, or from movement to bring up the menu. So you can see that I'm currently moving using the left stick. I'm going to hold down that button. And now instead, I have access to all of those menu items. So all I do is go over to that one and then release, and it would switch over to that if that button did anything in this particular game. So I can do the exact same thing on the other side. You can skip over this if you understand it, but I'm going to show you just one more time how to do it. I'm going to hit the Steam button. I'm going to go down to my buttons, extended buttons, L4 and R4. L4 is currently set to the Y button, so I am going to say that that is hold action set layer. So I'm going to go over to action sets, hold action set layer. I'm going to say that that is sub. Before we go any further, I do need to make a second virtual menu, which is very easy to do. I'm going to go to my virtual menus. I'm going to press add virtual menu. I'm going to give it a name. We'll call this one share. So if you like this video and you think it's useful and you know somebody who might be able to use it, go ahead and share it. And then I'm going to create another radial menu. I'm going to click on the pencil icon in order to open this up, and I'm going to add my virtual menus. And now all I'm going to do is set a few more buttons. So I'll do F1, F2, F3, whoops, F4. And I don't need to go past that, but now I'm also going to put in just a couple of icons just to make it easier and look a little bit better. I don't want that. We'll go with this axe. Whoops. And slingshot. I don't know what kind of game this is, but it sounds cool. Slingshots and grenades. It seems like a good name for a game. And now that I've got that set up, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go over to my joysticks, and if you look at the top left-hand corner of the screen, you can see it's currently on default set. I don't want it to be on the default action set, so I'm going to press the R1 button to switch over to my sub layer, and then I'm going to come over here from left joystick behavior is currently on like, right joystick behavior is going to be on share. So now what's going to happen is every single time, if I go into my buttons, every single time I press either the L4 or the R4 button, I can get different layers to come up. So let's close that out, moving around with my left stick, looking around with my right stick, holding down L4 brings up my menus. I can control the right menu with my right stick and the left menu with the left stick. And as of right now, we're still waiting for Valve to ship their ibex controller, which is essentially a Steam Deck without a screen in the middle and just the controllers on the side. Until Valve does that, we're always going to be a little bit lacking in features that we want, but this seems like as close as I can get. The one thing that it's lacking is trackpad support, but most of the things that I use trackpads for would be for those virtual menus. And so I can still do all of those virtual menus on this thing. The fact that it has the back paddle buttons is awesome because I like to use those for jump and attack. The fact that it has these two extra buttons, the L4 and the R4 on this controller, means that I can also use that for my menu system with radial menus. It means that you can play tons of games that you otherwise wouldn't be able to play without the Steam Deck's trackpads or without sitting at a mouse and keyboard instead. And for me, I always prefer to play over on my couch on the big TV or with a handheld in hand. I don't like sitting at my desk to play a game unless it's a game like World of Warcraft, for instance. But let me know what you guys think of this controller in the comment section down below that like button. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. From the Nerd Nest, I'm Bill. Stay rad, and thanks for watching.